Very much at home, very comfortable here, very much like our center plan. We were talking about that today. And of course, I had a very wonderful, close relationship with Swami Ji. And he used to come to our Washington, D.C. center every summer, as long as his health was all right. They would take like 1 month off. He would always come for about a week. So we all know him very well. And I knew him earlier when he was assistant in Sacramento also. So nice to be here on such a special occasion also. And so very thankful to Maharaj for inviting me. I like informal classes. I like question and answer. So I treat this as a very informal, casual type of class. I just want to say that I'm seeing some people here that I've known for a long time. Shubdeva, after it seems like a number of years, I'm seeing the two of you. We go back a long way from the Tripura days. Very nice Dr. Gordas visiting from India. Of course, I just saw him a few days ago. If you don't know, Dr. Gordas was a doctor for Swami Vivekachudamani. For many years, very close to him and other sadhus of our order presidents. And through his very hard work, we now have a very beautiful ashram in Somsar, the village where Swami Vivekachudamani was born and raised. It's one of the most peaceful villages that I've seen. There's such a wonderful atmosphere there, and it's such a nice ashram with medical clinic and every beautiful guest house and everything. If you ever go there, you should try to visit that place. Okay, so we're doing Vivekachudamani, and we're up to verse number 437. Now, I don't want to do too much with the different verses, but I want to have a kind of general discussion because this section talks about the meaning and the characteristics of a Jivan Mukta. So I want to, in fact, if you go back, you'll see it says hallmark of a Jivan Mukta, starting on 425. So we'll get all of these descriptions of who is a Jivan Mukta and what it means and everything. And this is a very common feature we have in our scriptures, especially in Gita, that we can have a lot of philosophical interpretations of things, but we need a living example. So in Gita, we have a very famous section in chapter 2, Stita Prajna section. And then again, chapter 14, what are the qualities of someone who's gone beyond the 3 gunas? There's Gunatita. So all of these are meant for 2 things. One is how do we recognize these people and appreciate them and show them proper respect. And 2, it's a blueprint, a roadmap for us. If we want to attain that state, then we have to follow the certain principles that we find there. We have to emulate. We have to try to cultivate those qualities which come through God realization. So if somebody says, how do I reach that state of Jivan Mukta, we reach it by practicing the qualities that one gets after one attains that state. So if we say that after God realization, then one sees same-sightedness, and one sees the same reality dwelling within all beings, then one of the practices we have to do is treat everyone the same. There's equal love for everyone. We put that into practice until it becomes something spontaneous and natural, and we understand it in a higher way. So Shankaracharya makes a very strong point, especially in this Stita Prajna section, that this is meant for sadhana, for spiritual practice. So I wanted to, I jotted down a few things that I wanted to discuss. As I say, if you have any questions or want to suggest anything, please don't hesitate. First of all, what do we mean by Jivan Mukti? We have 2 words that are put together. One is Jivat. Jivat means living. Mukti means free, we can say. traditional idea in many Western religions is that we attain salvation or liberation or attainment of heaven or something at the time of death. The Hindu tradition, Buddhist tradition, many other traditions that are more mystical in nature emphasize more a certain type of experience that we have during this lifetime, which is a transforming experience. That once we have that experience, certain things happen to us that are irreversible and will lead to the second type. We have two types of mukti. One is this jivan mukti, the other is called videha mukti. So if we can reach that state of jivan mukti, that means that our final liberation is assured to us. That there's no question about that. If we don't reach that state during this lifetime, then the final moment we can also get that. This is the promise that Holy Mother makes to us. If we have that real devotion, then we can have that highest experience at the moment of death. If we want it before, we have to work hard. And we have to do some hard spiritual practice and everything. So this idea of attaining to a state of freedom while we're living. While we're living is what's meant here by jivan mukti. Now, how do we understand it? There's a very nice verse that we found from the Mundaka Upanishad, which gives us 3 different criteria for this. It starts out with Vidyate Hridaya Granthi. The knots of the heart are all untied. So this is the first thing. Whatever crookedness we have, whatever impurities we have, all of that gets cleaned out within. Sri Ramakrishna used to say when he looked inside of himself, it was like seeing the inside of a pumpkin that's been cleaned out. If you scrape out and eliminate all the seeds and all the threads that are there, you scrape everything out, perfectly clean. So something like that. And then Chidyante Sarva Samshaya, all doubts are removed. Now, we can meet people who are very, very pure, that we see they have no hatred for anyone, they're not filled with desires and everything, and at the same time that they are free from doubt. We meet some people very often, very simple in nature. They really ask them about the existence of God, they'll say yes, there's no question about it. They'll take care of the first 2. Are they necessarily God-realized souls? Are they necessarily jivan muktas? No. They could be, but we have to get to this third one, Shyante Chasya Karmani. Now, the karma, all of the different karmas, have to be exhausted. Now, it takes a little bit of understanding, because in the Vedantic way of looking at things, there are different types of karma. And the role that prarabdha karma plays in all of this is very significant. Prarabdha karma is what we've done in a previous lifetime that has already started to bear fruit. And there are some very orthodox traditions that will say even the number of breaths that you'll take in this lifetime are determined by your prarabdha karma. And there's some people who won't take it quite so literally. Certain things that if we're destined for certain things to happen, maybe even the spouse that we'll marry, or whether we take to monastic life, whatever. But generally, one of the important elements is length of life. We have that. So this prarabdha karma cannot be wiped away even through God realization. Because it's already started, prarabdha. The arrow's been shot, so we can't stop it at that point. Now, Sri Ramakrishna and Holy Mother both make a very beautiful kind of footnote to all of this, that it can be lessened. So if we're destined to have a sword go through our chest, and we lead a very good, pure life, have some God realization, something like that, then maybe we'll get a pinprick instead. So they're paying honor to this theory of prarabdha karma, because they won't say that you'll be free from it. It'll be lessened, but we have to have that. So the other types of karma, things that we've done in this lifetime that ordinarily would lead to another lifetime, that will be the future prarabdha karma, that will get wiped away if we have this Bhagavad edition. And whatever we do in the future, none of that will bring more karma to us. Why? Because we no longer have this idea that pride, that I'm the one who's doing all of this. And number two, there'll be no incentive to do anything that will harm anybody. Automatically we'll only want to help people. There won't be anything that, any incentive, because the ego is gone, selfishness is gone, anger is gone, all of these things are gone. So naturally, whatever we do will be beneficial for others. We can't harm anybody. So Sri Ramakrishna gives a beautiful example. We have a sword made of steel, and this sword can kill somebody. You can cut somebody's head off with it. If you touch it to the philosopher's stone, Chintamani, it turns into gold. Now, gold is a soft metal. You can't use it in battle. It won't harm anybody. It'll be ornamental. It'll look like a sword, but it can't be used as a sword. So things may look the same, but there's a vast difference. So the personality traits, they may look the same, but there's nothing binding there. He gives another illustration. If you have a string and you set it on fire, and that string burns, and whatever shape it takes, the ash will take that same shape. It'll look the same. But he said if you puff, it all disappears. So what's the distinguishing feature of that? You can't tie anything with that string anymore. It doesn't bind. So the binding element is all gone. So the Jivan Mukta is someone who attains that state which, if it weren't for prarabdha karma, would allow that individual to merge in God. But because of this prarabdha karma, the body continues to exist, to live. So they give an example, a very common example, of the potter and the potter's wheel. When the potter wants to make a clay pot, so he'll have the clay, it'll be on the wheel, and he'll spin it. And he'll be shaping it, forming it, they add a little water, and they shape it, and they keep spinning it and spinning and spinning it. When the pot is done, then the potter takes it off of the wheel and leaves it in the sun to dry. Now, there's a potter's wheel generally is a very low friction type of thing. That means that once you've taken it off and you stop spinning it, it still can spin for a long time. So how long will it last? Whatever the past momentum is. However hard it was spun before and however little friction there is, that's how long it'll continue. So the body will continue that long. Now, what happens to the body of the Jivan Mukta and external things that take place don't affect the Jivan Mukta in an ordinary way at least. Why? Because he's no longer on the wheel. That we know at that point that we're not the body, we're separate from the body. So in that sense, even prarabdha karma is not working on that individual, because that individual is no longer an individual. That individual is now really in that state of perfection. But even the Jivan Mukta, who knows, or maybe he's had the experience of samadhi, knows that he or she is one with Brahman, still lives in the body on some level. We don't understand. We use this language, living in the body. We don't know what it means. But sees through those eyes and tastes through the tongue. He does all of those things. We look at Sri Ramakrishna. There was not the slightest bit of bondage or anything, but still, he had to suffer along with the suffering of the body to a certain extent. Not the way we do, but to a certain extent. He heard through his ears, he ate through the, all of those things. He could have a higher experience where he felt one with everybody, but from an ordinary point of view, he had that connection with the body. Now, this sambandha, this connection with the body, Vedanta will say that ultimately it's not a real connection, it's only apparent. But nonetheless, even the God-realized soul will have that. And it's necessary for them to continue to live in the world. So this is the theory behind the Jiva Mukta. And when does it happen? Tasman drishte parabhari. After one has the vision of the ultimate reality, which is both the high and the low, which is both transcendental and immanent, which is this whole universe and everything beyond that universe. But after having that experience, then one continues to live in the world as a Jiva Mukta, as long as his pradhamta karma is there. So this is that theory. We don't have to bother with the theory too much. The important thing is what these qualities are of the Jiva Mukta. Now, I wanted to discuss this a little bit in the context of Sri Ramakrishna and his teachings. Because for a long time, even now, I won't say that I fully understand, but for a long time I found many confusing things. Especially when Sri Ramakrishna would make these distinctions between, first of all, the avatar and Jiva, that we can understand. Ishvara Koti, a little more difficult. Nitya Siddha, he has these different categories. And who can attain to what? Who can attain from a devotional point of view? Only these Ishvara Kotis can attain to this Bhava and Prema. We can go as far as Bhava. So, how does this affect this idea of who can become a Jiva Mukta? And according to Sri Ramakrishna's teaching, sometimes we wonder, does he believe in it? For Jiva Koti, that means us. That means those of us who are not divine incarnations or companions. So I think we can all raise our hands. That's us. Right? So even for us, we can reach some high states of spirituality. But he says if we attain the state of nirvikalpa samadhi, right, then the body will last 21 days and it will fall off. Now, what if we try to take these two theories and combine them? Then we have to say that we won't attain that state of nirvikalpa samadhi until our pradhamta karma is practically gone. We have 21 days left, if we want to look at it that way. Now it makes sense because Sri Ramakrishna says, what is it that prevents us from going into that state, nirvikalpa samadhi? It'll be these samskaras that we still have, and these desires that we still have, or past karma, that way. So he gives a beautiful illustration. In villages, sometimes these boys would catch a mongoose, and they would enclose it. They would take some bricks and make a little circular brick wall. They knew at a certain height like that, and they would tie a brick to the tail of the mongoose, and they would watch the mongoose try to escape. And the mongoose could climb up to a certain height, and when it gets high enough so that it can go over the wall, then the brick is off the ground. So they have to make the wall that high. As soon as it gets high enough, the weight of the brick pulls it back down again. So we can attain very close to that state of nirvikalpa samadhi, but we have our past karma or past desires or something that would pull us down a little bit. Now, if that's true, then is it possible for us to attain to the state of Jiva Mukti? What do you say? Now I can ask you some questions if you want to ask me questions. Huh? Is it possible? Huh? Or is it something that Ishvara Kotis, that they can live in the world after samadhi, but all of us, that's it. We work very hard to reach a state where we'll give up the body in 21 days. What we did? What do you think? Has anybody thought about this question?
It is possible.
How? This troubled me very much, this question, for a long time. So explain how.
You said the mongoose will climb up the wall,
right?
But it will come down because of the weight of the brick.
Is it a Jiva Mukta after climbing up and coming back down again?
Because when he climbs up the wall, he sees on the other side what is there on the other side of the wall.
Okay.
So, but because of his karmas, he is coming down again. is pulled down again. So I don't know whether it can be called a jiva.
Will he be perfect if he still has some desire?
Exactly. So, but again, that can be a prarabdha karma also.
Okay.
So sadhana, you can, mongoose can unentangle with the bread or cut the bread or cut the cord.
Yes.
My question is different. My question
Okay.
is like why mongoose has to climb the wall at a first place? Because you said that some people are simple. They're simple. They have simplest desires, and they don't. And here we have a mongoose who wants to climb up the wall, maybe to see something which is beyond that wall. So this mongoose has some ambitions. And
This is actually a very, very good and important question. I have often thought that I'll try to give a whole talk on this question. That Sri Ramakrishna says over and over and over again that Ishwara Jivana Uddeshya, that the goal of life is God realization. Now, if we accept that, then there's no question about it. That this is why we come into this world. This is the goal of life for everybody. We have to attain to that. But we'll meet very many people who will say, no, that's not my goal in life. I want to be happy in this lifetime. I want to enjoy this lifetime. I want to be a good person. I want to raise a family. I want to have a good career. That's enough for me. Now, what do we mean by this Jivana Uddeshya? This is a very critical point. What do we mean when we say, sometimes they'll say the end and aim of life. Now, if we look at it from the point of view of the goal of life, we know in the old Hindu tradition that we have something called the Purusharthas, or Chatuvarga. We have different goals. In different stages of life, we have different goals of life. And first of all, dharma. We want to be good people. And there are many people in this world, and God bless them, we need more of them, who feel if I can lead a good life, I can help other people, I'll follow my teachings of whatever my faith is, I won't be selfish, all of that, then they'll feel that they've done it. Dharmic people. It's a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful thing. So this is the goal of life. Part of it, we should all have that as our goal of life. But what are the two things that Thakur always warns us against? Kama Kancha. Okay, what are the two things that are the goal of life for the householder, for the Grihastha? Kama Vata. There are two things that he warns us against. Why does he warn us against this? Because he's assuming that we've reached that stage, that final stage of life, where we're going for something else, something higher. But in the householder state of life, its legitimate goal of life is to accumulate property and wealth guided by dharma. So there can't be any selfishness there. We do it for the welfare of our family, for the welfare of society, without excess, with performing charity. Then it's a very positive thing. And karma. We can have desires to have a career, to be successful. Say we're a scientist. Will anyone be a scientist and be working for a cure for cancer and not have that as a goal? They say, no, I'm satisfied. I did some experiments and they didn't work. I'm satisfied. No. The goal of life during that stage, no, I really want to cure it. This is why I'm doing it. It's legitimate. But we go through this kama and artha in order to see through it, in order to get rid of the desires that we otherwise would remain with us. See, desire is a very tricky thing. Sometimes we think that every desire is a bad desire, and every desire that we fulfill comes back stronger. It's not true. We have to analyze very, very carefully. There are some desires that we fulfill, and we're free. We're free from them at that time. So those things, if they're legitimate desires, we want to do that. Somebody has a desire to visit a place, go on pilgrimage to some place. I've had many strong desires like that. I had a great desire to go to Kedarnath. So I went there, it was fantastic. I was perfectly satisfied, perfectly content. I've no desire to go again. So it's done. So other desires, then bhuya eva, they keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger, like pouring ghee on fire. That we have to avoid. So we have to analyze very, very carefully. Some people, the more money they get, the more money they need. The terrible greed. Those people, then they have to adjust and say, no, I have to be very cautious about that. So we have this stage of life where we get to experiment a little bit. We get to take care of those desires that we can get rid of. And other desires we get to see, is it really satisfying me? I thought that if I get this thing, I'll be so happy. Now I have it, and no, I'm not so happy. It's not what I thought it would be. It's not such a wonderful thing. Or we say, it's wonderful. I'll guard it with my life. So we have this yogakshema idea, that the two things that bind us. One, we don't have something we want it terribly. The other is we have it and we're scared to death of losing it. So this householder stage of life is when we get to play with these things a little bit. We get to find out what's really important and valuable for us. Then, if we've really seen that longing of the heart to possess something is not fulfilled by anything external, and if by God's grace we come to realize that there's an inner reality that's really what we're seeking without knowing, then that final stage final two stages of life, the retirement stage and then this complete renunciation stage, will be spent seeking that ultimate goal. Now the other reason why we can say that this is an ultimate goal of life is that according to the whole concept of punarjanma, reincarnation, that unless we achieve that goal, then life doesn't end for us. It will continue over and over and over again. That way it's the end of life, we can say. It puts an end to this round of birth and death, that way. But we don't have the right to tell somebody that your goal of life is wrong. We may think deep down that it would be nice if they realize that there's something greater in life. But if they're not of that state of mind, then we shouldn't have any superior attitude that way. We were talking about Vidyasara the other day, I don't remember when. And Thakur said that here's an example of a man doing very sattvic work. He was extremely generous. And he would help so many people, poor students and widows and everything. His whole life was spent it. So Thakur said that the work that he's doing is very good. It's inspired by sattva, that way. But if he knew that there's gold hidden within himself, then he would spend all of his time trying to realize that. So Thakur felt that there's a time and a place for everything. That people reach this stage in life when they've done enough. There's a very beautiful chapter in the Gospel of Swami Krishna called Advice to Ishan. This Ishan was also very generous. Swami Vivekananda loved this Ishan. How he praised him. You know, he said that Ishan was every bit as charitable as Vidyasara was. And Thakur also loved him, but he scolded him terribly. Because at the end of his life, and he had reached that point where if he wanted to, he could really spend his life in very sincere, deep spiritual practice. He was still engaging himself in different types of things. He used to be an arbitrator. That meant that people with different quarrels and everything, they couldn't satisfy them. They would come to him and he would decide, oh, this is right, or you give this much money like that. He said, why are you still doing this? Let others do it. You've done enough. Not that it's bad work, but you've done enough. Now's the time for you to try to realize God, realize your true nature. Anyway. So, it's a little bit, I think, a little bit too prideful of us to say that I know the real goal of life and what you're doing is okay. Sri Ramakrishna could do it, and he also could do it because he saw this Vidyasara was a very pure soul that way. Otherwise, we say that, yeah, everyone will come to this at a different stage in life, in different time in life, that way. But It's true. I think if we go up to somebody and say that, oh, you want to be a great scientist, that's not the goal of life. You want to raise a good family, that's not the goal of life. It is not fair for us to say that. And they can lead a very good life. And even at the end of life, they can be content. They can be content. At the end of life can say that, yes, I raised my family, I saw the children go to college, I was charitable, I helped as far as I could, I'm content. I didn't ask for anything more out of life. It's fine. But does that mean that they'll be realized and won't come back? That's a different story. That's a different thing. So if we take it that way, that until and unless we realize our oneness with God, then we'll keep coming back again and again. Now, some people may say, I don't mind. That's not a bad idea. That's also possible. We had one Swami, Ganeshwaran. He was the founder of our Chicago Center. And I remember reading a statement that he made. He said, I don't understand these people saying, oh, I don't want to be born again. There's so much pain and so much trouble. He said, if we're devotees, if we're devotees of God, if I can come back again and again as a Thakur serving, then I'll gladly do it. So these are also different spiritual attitudes that we have that way. So let me get back to...
I have one question regarding that Ishwar
Yes.
and then Dr. Samadhi.
Okay.
As we all know, Mohammed Maharaj, Shivananda Maharaj, was not Ishwar
Yes.
designated by Swami.
Yes.
And one devotee one day asked him that Maharaj, what we know,
Yes.
Ishwar what he has named Dr. Did you forget? He said, no, I had.
Yeah. First he said, why are you asking me? I'm not an Ishwar Koti.
Yeah.
Then he said, by Thakur's grace, I've become one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, how do you explain that?
Okay, I'll get to all of these things. Don't let me forget any of these things. Okay, now, we make a very sharp distinction between Nirvikalpa Samadhi and Savikalpa Samadhi. Right? Because the human mind likes to have categories. It likes everything very neat and clean. Now, Nirvikalpa Samadhi, if we say that the mind is perfectly still, there are no vrittis, then there shouldn't be any distinction. Nirvikalpa Samadhi is the same for everybody, right? Shouldn't be any distinction whatsoever. But we even read in the Gospel sometimes Sri Ramakrishna went into a very deep state of Samadhi. It took a long time to bring his mind down. So some variation is there. Some slight variation. Now, it may be that, and again, Abhijit made a good point. We climb up the ladder to the roof, right? We may peek over and say, that may be enough God realization. We may get up there, we may climb up a little bit. We may sit there for a while and say, how fantastic it is. But if we jump over, there's no coming back. And this was Sri Ramakrishna's example of the friends that were walking. So now Sri Ramakrishna makes different statements at different times. He also says, not just Ishvarakotis, he says that some people maintain a desire for the welfare of others, and even they can come down. This is Bodhisattva ideal. Yeah. Otherwise, we'll say it is Ishvarakoti alone can do it. So, Mahapurush Maharaj was a great soul. There's no question about it. Now, if we say he wasn't an Ishvarakoti, so what exactly do we mean? First of all, Ishvarakoti means Nitya Siddha also. That means that they're not born into this world with past karma. That in a previous lifetime, either they come as a companion of the divine incarnation, or they have this overwhelming desire to help others. The Bodhisattva takes a vow, in the Buddhist tradition, to be born again and again and again until every soul is free. The Bodhisattva is the vow of the Bodhisattva, so that also can be a category. There's some people like that. So the four friends, one climbs up to the top of a wall. The type of wall that's in an open field, not that it goes to the ceiling, but you can climb up to the top. They hear this wonderful singing and dancing and music and laughter. And so one by one they climb up and they look over and say, and jump over. The fourth one he also feels that pull to jump over, but he says, let me go back and tell others how much joy there is on the other side. So either we say the Ishvara Koti alone can do that, the avatar can do that, or there's some people who have this desire, this unselfishness. They're willing to withhold that ultimate bliss of union with God in order to help others and tell other people that way. So this question of, yes, we can reach the top of the ladder. How long can we stay up there before the pull is too great and we go over? Once we go over, there's no coming back. Once the drop is entered into the ocean, you can't retrieve it anymore. Now the body may last, but the water is water. The body is insignificant. The body is the wheel that's spinning. The jiva, who's no longer a jiva, is something completely separate at that point. Yes?
I have a question about, so if it means that the cessation of the desires and contentment at the end of life of a person is sufficient condition for that person to actually attain realization without that person ever even, considering God or a higher realization as one of the goals of the life. So if that is the sufficient condition, so this person has not really realized God and still he or she is able to pass away from this life without rebirth, because that person has all the desires satisfied and died a really content person.
Yeah. I won't say all desires, and I won't say all attachments, because that won't happen that easily. That's why this fourth line, Tasmin Drishte Paragari, that this real cessation of desire, real ending of doubts, real burning up of karma, only comes after we have that vision of God, or self-realization, God-realization. Yeah. So I'm not equating that. Now there's one place, of course, where Swamiji says that those who don't have any religion, who don't do any meditation, don't do any of that, simply through the power of selfless work, can attain to the same height that the jnani can attain to, and the yogi and the bhakta can attain to. But it's a very rare thing. And even for them, they'll have to have such purity of heart and such selflessness that it will result in some type of experience. There has to be some anubhuti. There has to be some very significant awakening that takes place. And of course this can happen in so many different ways. Thakur talks about even swapna siddha, those who become perfect in dream, the harat siddha, those that happen all at once. Sadhana siddha, after long practice, they'll attain perfection. It happens in so many different ways. Now, I wanted to, if we have time, I wanted to also stress one other point. When we read about this, all of the signs that we'll see here, and then say Sthita Prajna section, then you're all familiar with it. Sthita Prajna is someone who's established in very steady wisdom, who with no ups and downs, very calm, peaceful, sees the same in all beings. A very beautiful, beautiful model of a perfect God-realized soul. Now, if we take, for example, Swami Vivekachudamani, will we call him a Sthita Prajna? Anybody?
I think he's more than that.
More than that. Okay. See, Sthita Prajna will be a certain personality type. A God-realized soul will also have a distinctive personality. This is really for the jnani. Swami Vivekachudamani was a highly emotional man. Highly emotional. Great ups and downs in his life. Does that mean he's anything less than a Sthita Prajna? No. But it depends on the personality, it depends on the spiritual path. I'll talk a little bit about the difference between the God-realized jnani and the God-realized bhakta. They're quite different, anyway. So, one example, when Swami Swamiji came to the West, and he was so popular at the Parliament of Religions. You know, we just had, Sunday was on the 25th anniversary of the opening speech of the Parliament of Religions. He was so popular there that there was tremendous jealousy from Christian missionaries on one side, even others, this Pratap Majumdar, others, and people who told terrible stories about Swamiji. He was an actor on the stage. Now, is it true he was an actor on the stage? It's true, because the Brahma Samaj, they